Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Executive Table Talk. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily and the lucky host of today's topic. We are talking about stress, specifically managing stress at work. So, as I bring my panelists up today, I first want to ask you, what are your top 3 stressors at work? What are the things that are stressing you out most these days that are keeping you up at night that you think are contributing negatively to your physical and mental well-being? We want to hear about those in the comments. Also, as always, if you have questions for our panel today, please pop them in as early as possible. We want to make sure that we have plenty of time at the end of the session to answer your questions. And sometimes they're so good that we need to answer them right in the middle of the session. So all questions in the chat, as well as your stressors, and we will get this party started. Speaking of parties, let me bring up 2 people that are regulars on the program. Hello, Michael. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi, JT.
Good to have you both here today. So we're talking about stress in the workplace. Michael, I would love to hear from you first. I think you worked in a relatively stressful environment when we talk about you working at the NFL. So I think you've got a lot to say on this subject. So take it away.
Thank you, JT. I just love this topic. I was up kind of late last night doing some things on YouTube and of course on Google and yes, the NFL is very stressful. Sometimes if the team doesn't win, the coach is let go, and sometimes the general manager, whoever brought him in, is let go. But yes, these times can be very stressful because teams want to win, they want to be in the playoffs. But I'm going to talk about my stresses. I had a very, very great boss / mentor when I was at the NFL, and he was really, really great because he taught me about working ahead of really working ahead of deadlines. He himself worked at an accounting firm. He told me the story where they were all sitting around in a group and just talking, getting ready to start their day. But he said his hands were moving. His hands were moving, like putting things into his files, and he was also on the computer doing stuff. And then when it came time for them to start their day and the deadline was here, everybody was running around like crazy. And they're like, "Look at him, he's not doing anything. Why isn't he running like us?" He said, "Because when we were sitting there talking, my hands were moving. I was doing stuff. I'm finished my stuff." So people think that you have to run around like crazy. And he always told me, he says, "Mike, if you have a family emergency, you want to take care of that. Or if you get a new project here, you want to take care of that. That's important. It makes you look good when you can take on new stuff." So he kind of taught me how to work on timelines, the calendar. He says, you don't need the information that you're working on. You don't need this stuff until for 2 or 3 months. Just put it to the side. Or maybe you start working on it. Maybe it's a budget or something. You start working on it and you don't finish it, but you put a couple of hours into it. So I was researching this and I went on to find a few more things about stress. And I knew the kind of stress I had, which was deadline stress, but there are a whole lot of other stresses. And I'm just going to read a few off this list. And this, of course, this business stress, demanding boss, and deadline stress, like I mentioned, teamwork stress, navigating dynamics of collaboration, financial stress, which is balancing budgets and bottom lines, change stress, evolving business landscape changes, competition stress, staying ahead of the pack, work-life balance, uncertainty, finding stability in turbulent times, leadership stress. As leaders, we all have stress, and I'll get more into that a little later too. Also, there's communication stress, bridging the gap between clarity and uncertainty, and your customers, satisfying customers' demands, and also technology stresses. So there are many, many stresses, and you can either master the stress or be a servant to it. So you have to pick which one you want to be, a master to the stress or be a servant to it. But stress is inherent, no matter, and also too, it's a byproduct of ambition. No matter what we do, and we're trying to get ahead, we want to own our business, we want to do things, there are many, many stresses that come along with that. And there's really nothing you can do about these things. And surprisingly, stress is not part of the mental health fitness test. I know when I go to the doctor, my doctor asks me, "Michael, are you depressed about anything? Is there anything I can help you with?" But stress is not part of this. Not part of this equation as far as when it comes to mental health. And I'm really, really surprised at that. And I was reading that 1 million Americans call out of work every day due to stress. So it's a lot going on with stress. And here I thought it was something that was an easy topic, but clearly it's not. It's not. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The stats are incredible. And I think you're right. Like, we all have stress. We're never going to get away from it. But I think without the right management tools, as you talked about, how much it can pile up on you is really a concern. And unfortunately, so many environments aren't built to help employees in particular cope with stress, right? It tends to be something you have to figure out on your own. So really great points, Michael. Loved it. Lisa, what's your take on this topic of stress?
Yeah, thank you, JT. And just as JT, I said, I'm wondering what you all can relate to out there and what your stories are, because have you worked in a fast-paced company? Have you dealt with tight deadlines, like Michael said, long hours, multiple projects? What about missing deadlines? Are you dealing with coworkers who are constantly catching up on shared projects? If you can relate to some of this, share your stories, because I'm sure you have felt that stress at work like we all have. And I want to share with you 5 things that I've done to try and manage stress that hopefully can help you. But share your stories. Would love to hear that. The first thing for me is self-awareness. It starts by recognizing the signs of stress, which manifests differently in everybody. But some of the symptoms are irritability, fatigue, headache, stomach pains, sometimes even anger. Research says that 95% of us are self-aware, but the actual number is 10 to 15%. Most of us are oblivious about how others perceive us. Why is this important? Well, when we become self-aware, we can reshape how others perceive us in the world, and that can reduce our stress. The other thing is mindfulness and meditation. And for some of you, this may be a bit woo-woo. For me, it was a bit woo-woo for years, but hear me out. When you just do some breathing or you clear your mind to be present, it can significantly reduce your stress. As a type A person who struggles to reduce my stress and unwind, I have literally, when stress comes about, just counted to 20. Counted to 20, and it has significantly impacted my stress. And so if you struggle with this type of stress reduction in high stress situations or just stressful situations, consider breathing for a minute or just counting for a minute. It can or going for a walk for 5 minutes. It can significantly reduce your stress. Or if you embrace mindfulness and meditation, get mindfulness apps, meditation apps, just whatever you can do to clear your mind and be present. The other thing is, and Michael hit on this so well, is self-care matters. As somebody who didn't prioritize this for years and now does, it has made a significant impact in my life, which is, eating a well-balanced diet, exercising regularly, and sufficient sleep. Your food choices can influence your stress. Caffeine, sugar, that can increase your anxiety. A well-balanced diet can stabilize your mood and energy. And we all know that exercise releases endorphins. It's a natural stress releaser. So going on a brisk walk during your break or even stretching at your desk can have a significant impact to your overall well-being. And the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, they recommend 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. So, high quality sleep is crucial to your overall stress management. And sometimes we forget this. I know I did for years. The other thing is stay calm. During stress, conflict, maintaining composure is crucial. Staying calm and removing the emotion allows you to take a step back and effectively problem solve. More importantly, it will make the people around you feel safe, secure, and confident in your leadership. And the last thing I wanted to mention is maintain control over your reactions. There's a lot of things in this world that we cannot control. If your coworker gets angry or a boss gets angry at your project, we can't control that. What we can control is how we respond, how we handle the situation, how we handle our emotions, which as in return will reduce our stress. So when faced with someone's unhappiness or criticism or stress, adopt a curious, empathetic approach. Ask what makes you feel this way. Express understanding. It sounds like something I said was offensive to you. Stay inquisitive and keep asking questions. Hopefully, one of these or all five of these are things that you can take back into your workplace and help reduce your overall stress.
I love it. So, first of all, some great advice from both of you. And I think really the challenge, is putting this stuff into practice. And I just want to give a shout out, first of all, to Genevieve. She's dialing in today and she said, I've also been really reading a lot about this and realized we need to know when it's time to rest from stress so we can come back and solve these issues. But here's the gem I think Genevieve followed up with. It really is a discipline and little habits.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite one she said is, I use laughter to reduce my stress level. So I really, going back to that middle comment, Genevieve, it is about discipline and not taking these habits for granted or assuming, oh, they're not going to work for me, right? It really is something you need to do. Want to give a huge shout out to Margaret. She commented from LinkedIn, we normalize stress. And we also know in some situations, elevate it being under stress as a badge of success. Somehow saying, oh, I'm so stressed. See how hard I'm working? This paradigm continues to reinforce poor management and regard about the negative impact of stress. Margaret, I could not agree more with you about this. These people that come in early and stay late as a way to show how hard they're working, I've never respected that. It makes me question why you need to work that hard and what's going on outside your life, that this is the way you perceive it. And I think we have to have a massive shift in management, reinforcing the right behaviors as opposed to reinforcing that behavior. So thank you for that, because I think it's a really powerful comment. I also want to bring up Najude's, I hope I'm saying this correctly, his comment. I have a friend of mine, he doesn't like to show that he's stressed, but since joining his new company, he's never slept well and he's working more than 12 hours a day. Consultants are suffering. They're paid a lot and the company provides well-being, but nobody uses the time off because the consultants don't have the time. Words he uses every day in my mind is cooked. His mind doesn't stop while he's sleeping. Thank you for this. I've already recommended this to him. I hope he is listening. I hope he is listening too. Because this is a wake-up call for people that the only person that's going to handle your stress is you. And I think, Lisa, you made a comment that, hey, I didn't do it as much before, but as I aged and stress took its toll, I was forced to do these things or I wasn't going to be able to continue performing. I absolutely can ditto that. I'm sure, Michael, you can. I think any of us that have seen direct impacts from stress, it gets to the breaking point and you need to fix it, right? Really, really huge. So I want to jump to Sylvia's question. She said, how do you deal with a coworker that is critical to a project, but notorious late in doing their part to meet the deadline? I think that's a very fair stressor and a common one, Sylvia. We go into the office and unless we're a completely independent contributor, other people directly impact our ability to succeed. And that is extremely stressful. Just curious, Lisa, Michael, have either of you dealt with that and any suggestions you have for Sylvia?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I think, part of it is project management, right? And saying, hey, here are the expectations. We're all, we've all got a timeline, we've all got responsibilities, and we've all got things to meet. So everybody comes to the table, everybody's meeting. And then if somebody's not meeting it on the team, start with an empathetic approach. What's the challenge? How can we help? Are you able to commit to this team and commit to what is here? And if you're not, maybe we can find somebody else to be on the team. If you're not able to, do we need to find somebody else? Because, maybe there's something else that's a priority and we've got to find a replacement. But if you've made a commitment and you've made a commitment to this team to meet these timelines, then let's do it. If you can't do it and it's just a one hiccup, we can come in and help you. But if it's an ongoing pattern, then what's the issue? And do we need to get a replacement for you because we've got a larger commitment to the organization that we have to meet. So what's the root of the problem? And let's figure out how to solve the root of the problem. But if it's a one-time thing and we can help you, the team is here to help you. Ongoing issue, we got to solve the ongoing issue.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to chime in here too, because this is something I've coached to quite a bit. I love to go to a person like this, Sylvia, and talk about impact. And I tell them that this is impacting in 3 ways. It's impacting the company because I'm unable to do my work because I'm not getting the work product from you, which is impacting our ability to be successful as a company. It's impacting our direct department as a reputation because we play an integral role in this company. So now we're being seen as not contributing at the level of others. And it's directly impacting your career and the perception of you because you're forming a perception that you're not a reliable coworker, at least in my mind, because I'm not getting what I need from you. So this is hurting the company, the department, and your career. And I don't want that for you. I'm your coworker. I want to support you. So I really feel obligated to tell you this because I don't want to see you negatively impacted. I don't want to see any of these areas negatively impacted. And it's funny how sometimes when you frame it that way, they realize the magnitude of what they're doing, because I know so many people that are like, oh, I was like a little day late. I was just a few minutes late. And they're not really thinking about the ripple effect across not just you, but the department and the company. So sometimes taking it that step farther and really framing it out can be helpful. All right, we've got a follow-up question from Margaret that I'd love for you both to touch on. This was something that you brought up, Lisa. Margaret says, it's good to ask about emotional intelligence, but if folks are only 10 to 15% aware and they're unaware that they're even feeling stressed, what suggestions do you have to help managers first help others even identify their physical sensations? So, I mean, that's a great point. A lot of people are not aware that they are in stress mode, but we can see it in them as a manager. So thoughts on how each of you have maybe drawn that out in somebody who's been stressed out? Michael, you want to jump in?
Yes. I'd like to say that, I like the way Lisa said about staying calm and in control. But yes, sometimes we can realize that someone's in stress and they're in a stress mode, and maybe they should be or maybe they shouldn't be, but we need to let them know that we're going to be okay, and reassure them. And maybe if they have to take something off, if you have to take something off their plate, and that's what we'll have to do. But we don't want you to be stressed out, especially stressed out.
Yeah, totally, completely agree. Lisa, have you ever seen an employee or a coworker and known they were stressed and helped them bring it to light?
Yeah, and it's just staying curious and asking the question, what makes you feel this way? What are the challenges that you're facing? And it's breaking it down. And sometimes when you just keep asking the questions and breaking it down, you can get to the root of it and help them become aware of what's going on. And sometimes it's just smaller than what they're making it out to be. It becomes bigger. We make things bigger in the emotional state than it really is. So when you start breaking it down and bringing logic to it, it becomes less of an issue. So just being curious and asking questions and keep asking and saying, is that really it? Could that be an assumption? Could that, let's find out really what the cause is. And sometimes people make assumptions that aren't really what's happening through emotions.
I like your comment about keep asking, because I found the first time you ask somebody about, hey, is everything okay? Is there anything I can help you with? Yeah. We naturally dismiss it. We're humans. We're like independent beings. We don't want to burden others. We don't want to appear like anything's wrong, right? We're in denial. But when you ask repeatedly in a relatively short span of time and keep reframing how you're asking that, maybe commenting on it, you seem a little stressed, or it seems like there's a lot going on today. After repeated asks, you usually get someone to break down and admit what's happening, because you actually force them to pay attention to it. That if somebody's asking this repeatedly, why are they asking? Oh my gosh, maybe I am stressed. And I've seemed to have a lot of good luck with that. Margaret has a follow-up on that. She said, managers have the opportunity to elevate awareness by starting off meetings asking things like, how are folks feeling today? Or raise your hand if you're feeling X amount of stress. Do you think this could help the 10 to 15% begin to see stress exists and how to make it more manageable? Mindfully introduce awareness in order to manage it. I think that's a fascinating concept, Margaret. I see pros to it, right? Is everyone stressed? I see cons to it, because I want to go back to what Michael said first. We all have stress.
Yes.
There's always going to be a level of stress. And frankly, we've had, experts on the show before who have said there is a certain amount of healthy stress that you need to really perform, right? That kind of lights a fire under you. So, we got to ask ourselves how to be mindful of it without all of a sudden creating this environment where everyone's reacting to the littlest thing and saying, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, which I do see, a little bit of post-pandemic. I think we've talked about post-traumatic stress injury, that a lot of people still have elevated levels of stress, but so that anytime something else happens, it just kind of re-triggers. And I think that's a bigger opportunity that I would like to see managers addressing right now. I think managers need to be going to their organizations and HR and saying, look, we need some tools to help people reset their stress levels as a whole. And so that we don't keep having these re-triggering events. Just my take on it. I would be curious if either of you have seen the same thing, feel the same way.
I'm a big fan of trying to mitigate the stress. I mean, yes, a lot of stress is inherent, built into what we're doing day to day. Even college students have stress. I remember being in college having 2 and 3 different exams in one day, and that was stressful. I thought, wow. And the professor said, like, we don't communicate with each other professors about when they're having an exam. This is it. If you have 3, you have 3. And I even have nieces and nephews are taking 1 course or 2 courses at a time. I was like, when I was in college, I took 5 or 6 courses at a time, just trying to finish school. But I do believe in trying to mitigate the stress. I remember my mother saying, you can't swat at every fly. So you can't just react to everything. And like Lisa said, stay cool, stay under control. So sometimes you have to just wait. Sometimes you just can't react. Sometimes just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. I just want to follow up that Margaret said, Lisa, amen, Lisa. We build a narrative in our minds as well as based on fears that don't exist. False expectations appearing real. I could not say it better. I also want to jump back here because Genevieve made a comment that I think we want to talk about. It's normal that we cannot bring logic in when we're stressed out because the cortisol is overwhelming in our brains. This is what we're talking about today, folks, is the self-awareness to recognize your cortisol levels are high, as my 2 experts talked about, and getting some habits built to impact it, to re-level set, to, we talk about managing stress. There's no eradicating. It's always going to be there, but managing it to a healthy and productive level is what we're hoping everybody gets out of today's session, that understands that's what you want to navigate towards. So I really love that.
And GT, I wanted to make one point that, when we're stressed and our emotions are high, we should not be making any critical decisions in a state of emotion. So one thing that I really try to do is not take any action when I am emotionally high, because in 24 hours or 48 hours, I am in a completely different state. That email doesn't get sent, that going into a boss's office, that going into an employee office doesn't happen. I am in a completely different state. So do not make any emotional critical decisions when you are in an emotionally compromised state. Just think about that.
Yeah, I love it. Great comments.
That's a good point. Yes.
Sleep on it, right? What they always tell you, sleep on it. We have another question here. Eudrin is saying, how do you navigate an environment that's very toxic and there's no empathic approach where you can properly communicate with your supervisor? I mean, this is a real deal. I think there are managers out there that they're not empathetic. They're frustrated themselves. It's probably a really clear sign that their stress level is out of whack. And I mean, there's nothing worse. I think that creates a toxic environment. An overly stressed leader is creating this environment where you can't even speak up and say, hey, I'm stressed, or I'm struggling this or struggling with that. Do you want to weigh in at all? Either of you, thoughts on that?
I would like to. Yes, I think you've got to lead by example. It just comes down to, you have to be that leader that shows empathy, trust, what it's like to be a good leader and to step up and communicate. You're not going to get it from your boss. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get what you need. So show that example of what it's like to be in the organization that is not that toxic, is not that person, and set that example in the organization. Long term, is it going to be the organization that you want to be in? Maybe not, but in the short term, set the example and do what you can to help others and be that servant leader in the organization, because it's hard. It is hard to be in that organization with that, but you can set the tone.
I love that you're saying that. I want to add on to that and just say that, I said earlier about impact. A toxic environment where you have no control over the manager is still an opportunity, exactly what Lisa was saying, to really define yourself and what your business of one is about. Just you don't have to play into their energy. You don't have to play into that toxicity. There's a real opportunity here to be independent of that environment. And like Lisa said, exemplify what should be in that leadership role. Be the role model and watch your peers adapt that, because they're certainly going to want to be more like that than they are that toxic environment. And that can really help. It can start to shed the light. And I've seen situations where the team has really come together like that. And, the manager's the one that's eventually out the door, because it just becomes so apparent that the toxicity is coming from that one location. So I think that's great advice on your part, Lisa, for sure.
Because sometimes you get from leadership, or just get over it, or just it is what it is. You can't do it, we'll get somebody else. So that's very true.
Yeah, definitely. We've got another LinkedIn user here today asking, how do you work at a place where they have no bandwidth to provide training? I looked everywhere and spoke to people who had the same title, but alas, I had to resign as I saw the writing on the wall. This does happen a lot. And we think, why wouldn't a company train us, right? Why wouldn't they want to help us put our best foot forward? And then we get in there and it's extremely stressful because they don't train us. They leave us to survive on our own. Either of you been in that situation or have thoughts on how to deal with that?
Retention, and you'd think that retention would be high with HR and even within the department, but sometimes things are moving fast and there's just not enough time. And companies are trying to be profitable, and there's just not enough time in the day to deal with. And they're in mindset they can find someone else. Find someone else who can.
I think you're right. And I think this person recognized it. I think the best thing this person did for themselves was say, I know I can't stay here.
Right.
I can see the writing on the wall. I'm not going to survive here, do well. So why keep myself in that stressful state? Right? I can't control that they're not going to provide training. I think that's a very wise person to recognize that. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I think what you need to do is then just take care of yourself. Find a coach, find a mentor, find your own training yourself. As JT likes to say, you're a brand of one. So go take care of yourself. Figure that. I mean, you did that. You went and found somewhere else. But in the meantime, figure out how you're going to add value to yourself, and figure the avenues out there. There are courses, there are training, there are mentors, there are coach. Go do that.
Love it. Folks, this has been a wonderful session. First of all, thank you for all the participation. This always makes it better when you dive in with your comments and questions. Michael, Lisa, as always, outstanding job. Folks, please go find both Michael and Lisa on LinkedIn. Follow them there, and you can even send a customer connection request. Let them know you saw them here on ETT. I know that they'll accept your request and answer any questions that you have. And of course, until next time, I just want to put up one last comment that I think summarizes it best from one of our attendees today. Genevieve says, my best solutions come from rest. And I think that is a great takeaway from today. If you're stressed, it's time to rest, right? Yeah. So wonderful advice. Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you for everyone that participated today. And until next time, remember, if you want to win, you got to work it daily. Bye-bye, everyone.